Joining us right now from somewhere around the world, Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul, God bless you, brother.
God bless, Mike. I'm so glad to be with you tonight. You know, you talked about planes falling out of the sky, and we've been seeing it. We've been seeing it. But now with the government shutdown and all that kind of stuff, immediately what happens? Well, we have 2 Delta planes colliding on the taxi and the runway in New York. And I don't know if that's because we don't have all the staff there or if that's just, I don't know what to say. Are we in a dangerous situation right now with our air travel with lack of staff?
It could be okay, but we have overworked air traffic controller personnel, right? It's not good for them to get fatigued and tired. They'll start making mistakes. We also have a problem with aircraft maintenance all throughout the airlines.
That's huge.
That's a big problem. Yeah, it's a big problem. Every single day, there are problems with brakes. Every single day, there are problems with engines. There are so many engines that have caught fire upon takeoff, right?
Yep.
It's, it's just not good. And because we have these atmospheric conditions and we have an increase in iron in the atmosphere that causes more rust, right? So they're going to have to go to other types of metals. They were trying to get the cheapest metals they possibly could. But as it turns out, rust is starting to really infiltrate a lot of, product that is just, that iron and steel base. So they're going to have to get rid of that and go. Everything's going to have to be some sort of flight-worthy type of alloy.
So a lot of
something
our planes,
that's non-corrosive.
A lot of our planes are 30 and 35 years old.
Yeah, and if you have a bolt that is, not pure stainless steel, but just steel or something you missed, they're starting to fall apart. You have panels that are starting to fall apart. It's not the aluminum. It's not the aircraft aluminum. It's the rivets, some of the rivets and some of the maintenance rivets and bolts and things of that nature that are falling apart.
People used alternative cheap stuff.
Cheap. That's right.
Yeah,
they went cheap. And now that the atmosphere has a higher iron count, you could say, than it ever has before, anything that's metal is going to rust a lot. In fact, I can almost guarantee that most of your audience, if they mess with auto mechanics or something like that, they have noticed that things rusting faster than normal.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about this. Why is it you're saying that the atmosphere is got a higher content of iron?
Yep.
Creating this rusting, quicker rusting.
Yep.
What's causing that? I mean,
two things.
Tell us.
2 things. We have a greater iron content being released from the cold regions of the Earth, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. Is being released from icebergs and everything else. I mean, lots of iron to where the water looks like there are blood waterfalls in several places in those Arctic regions where you have glaciers melting that were full of iron, right? Looks like blood waterfalls is what it looks like. And then you have this increased particulates from space. Now they continue to build up. Remember, we first start talking about the waves of energy, galactic cosmic rays, and things of that nature, right?
Yes, I do.
Well, We've had a lot of exotic particles coming in from outside the heliosphere, inside the solar system, that never stops. It's causing our atmosphere to become dense. As it becomes dense, it's warming up, right? As it warms up, humidity or the cloud has a greater potential to carry more and more water. That whole process is known as atmospheric compression. And why is that? Because it becomes, the pressure increases, of course, with a higher density thermosphere. It gets very hot up there. It's 5,000 degrees up there, right? So and the reason why nothing burns up in the thermosphere is because there's not that much matter to transfer the heat, one particulate to another. As that builds up, more and more heat gets transferred. You're actually going to be able to feel it. So over time, the Earth is going to begin to burn. I mean, really burn, right? And that's a real phenomenon. And it will hit a flashpoint. A flashpoint is when it gets to a degree where the temperature starts going up probably once a week, right? It'll go up that way instead of once every 2 to 5 years. And that's what we've been seeing on a very minor level. It also means everybody's bones and joints and everything else is going to hurt continuously with the higher pressures. And it also means that near the sea coasts and the coastlines, right, the water is going to evaporate about 3 times faster than it ever would. It's going to be like a boiling effect on your coastlines. So I suspect no one will be able to live on the coastlines due to, the conditions on the coastline.
Because the water is going to get too warm along the coastal area.
That and the evaporation is going to cause humidity to be far too high. So you won't be able to breathe like that.
Yeah, you can't do it.
You can't breathe like that.
No. So, okay, in 2 Peter chapter 3, it talks about the earth will melt with a fervent heat. Even the elements are going to burn up, okay? And I realize that that's a process of time and maybe part of the judgment of God, but that's already in motion, isn't it? I mean,
it has to start somewhere.
It has to. Because God just don't snap his fingers. He allows his cosmic creation to operate based on the law of gravity, the law of relativity, the law, the different laws. He allows those laws to operate, and at the same time, they have the ultimate result. And then he tells us it's going to happen, and then he warns us to do something about it where we stand with him, and yet we seem to just...
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, Revelation talks about the 7 bowls of judgment poured out. I mean, the sun is one of them, right, Mike? I mean, the sun is exploding with all kinds of plasma and CMEs and mass ejections. Isn't it all part of what God warned us would happen in the end times?
It is. And even for an example, even right now, if our magnetosphere, right, say it went down for 28 seconds, just 28
seconds, okay,
in a certain part of the earth, do you not know that part of the earth would burst into flame?
What?
If we took the solar winds back to a time where they were half of what they are now, right? And let's just say the sun was extremely calm and extremely silent. Even in that time, if you took down the Earth's magnetic shielding in any spot for about 28 days, it would burn everything to about 20 feet in the earth. Everything would be burnt. The dirt would turn to glass. Everything would change and be a crisp. That's the power of the solar winds. The only reason we're not burned up is because we have a magnetic shielding around the earth. If that ever leaves, we're going to burn up just like with a snap of a fingers. We're going to be toast, right? So, but here's the bad part. We all know the magnetic north has been moving all over the place.
Yeah.
According to historical data, and according to, because every time the earth volcanoes erupt and everything else, they leave a magnetic signature of where the magnetic north was. Right? Now, according to geology, according to the historical record in the earth, the magnetic poles have changed frequently. But every time they did change, something happened. When the North Pole began to move and the South Pole began to move, shortly after that, there was a chaotic time of the shielding of the earth. A chaotic time means you had certain areas of the earth not covered, other areas of the earth covered, and it was shifting. During this shifting process, vitrification took place on the surface of the planet, which means parts of the planet cooked instantly.
Really?
Turned into glass. People vaporized, animals vaporized.
What?
Right?
What?
And the opposite happened with a freezing event.
Yeah.
As it's chaotic like this, it may block too much heat, and then you have instant freezing, where a bee was caught frozen in flight, getting whatever it was getting from a flower, actually frozen in ice in flight. Birds captured frozen in flight. Animals frozen while eating or drinking.
Woolly mammoth.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a whole lot more than the woolly mammoth, though. Lots of them. Even, see, they like to talk about the woolly mammoth because that was a long time ago. They don't want to talk about some of the recent species of animals. And that
Oh,
would scare people to pieces, right?
right.
So these events, they're cyclical. They happen, time goes by, they happen again. Time goes by, they happen again. That's why they've been searching for Planet X, because they've been looking for something that's a catalyst for these issues, right?
Right.
But as it turns out, in between these long durational cycles of the destruction that probably were caused by a destroyer of some type, there are about 4 or 5 different cycles of freezing and burning that take place. And we're in one of those cycles now.
Now, let me ask you, you talk about the solar winds. I just looked at Heidi talked about it earlier in the broadcast tonight. Right now, the solar winds is 728 kilometers per second. Now, normally, those solar winds usually average around 333. Okay, that's kind of like a normal. It goes up a little, like into the low 400s and sometimes down even. But Mike, we've been seeing 500, 600, 700 constantly. That's your point. It's the solar winds are increasing dramatically, and the Earth is absorbing it. Our magnetosphere is under a ton of pressure, isn't it?
It is. It's also fluctuating due to a change of the interiors of the Earth, right?
Okay.
Because the interior of the Earth controls our magnetic shielding. But even if you were to cut the solar winds in half, those solar winds have the power to destroy all life on Earth.
So our magnetosphere is so important.
That's right. The only thing that stops that is that magnetic field around the Earth. And how it works is all that radioactive wind hits the magnetic shielding. Well, magnets have lines of force. Radiation follows magnetic lines of force. And they happen to go right into the interiors of the planet. Now, I'm about to give you a part of a formula that I use in COT, just a part of it, because some people have wondered, how in the world can anybody predict a solar flare? I think I did that 8 times in a row accurately with 8 different dates, right? Yep. And people wondered why.
I remember you doing that.
Here's part of it. When the solar winds are high, all that radiation goes inside the Earth. That's going to cause the magma to heat up. That magma is going to start to cause volcanic eruptions, right? These volcanic eruptions are quite predictable. Watch and see. We have high solar winds, and a few days later, it's going to cause a buildup in the Earth, which will result in some sort of magmatic event in the Earth. It's almost like clockwork. At the same time, every time the sun has some alteration in the speed of the winds to a certain degree, we know there's a chemistry change on that side of the sun.
Okay.
Now you can't see that, but it happens. It'll burn up some fuel on one part, but then it has to replenish. This can often cause a few, magnetic bands to form on the sun, which will eventually turn into a CME or something like that. And that's part of the process, right? That's without all the numerical data, of course, but that's part of the process. And both operate in tandem. Right. And the heliosphere has a big part to play in solar flares, because you can actually get measurements on the weak parts of the heliosphere. And this is amazing. Every single time there's a weak spot on the heliosphere, why does the sun send a solar flare to that spot?
That's okay. Explain that, because I see that happen a lot. Why?
That is an amazing thing. The solar system is like a mechanism, right? Much like the mechanisms on the inside of the body. They operate automatically, but they keep balance no matter what. We've gone through turbulent times, yet the solar system somehow stayed in balance and life is still sustained. And I suspect it will always be that way until God's decree comes forth and it does not, and life is no longer sustained. Counting on that, then balance is going to be performed. And you can, by the weaknesses in the heliopause, you can then somewhat predict activities on the sun, especially if you can get a reading on certain radiation levels, intensities of light, and things of that nature. And you can see these things coming. Now, if I can do it, right, with my own stuff, if I can do it, well, then you know that bigger institutions can also do the same.
Absolutely.
And because they're not telling people means they're likely preparing for bigger things. Because if it were no big deal, they would have told everybody by now.
Yeah, it's a big deal. That's why they're building underground cities. That's why they're spending billions, trillions of dollars to try to survive the apocalypse that they know is coming.
Yep, they are.
No doubt.
They are.
Let me ask you. Okay, we've gotten something coming, and it's called Comet, or no. Don't call it Comet yet. Not yet. Atlas 3I, this interstellar object coming about 137,000 miles a second, roaring toward us. It's the size of Manhattan. It's shooting off of it 90% nickel, 10% cyanide. We don't know where the iron is at. It's supposed to be there. But here's the key thing. Tomorrow, Mike, and here's a diagram. Tomorrow, it's going to come very close to Mars. Okay? And you can see it right there at the top, guys, right there.
Right.
Very close to Mars. The odds of that was very, very, very low. Okay? Very low. But as it goes by Mars, it's also going to make a trip very close to Venus, very close to Jupiter, each time very close to all three of these major planets. The odds of this is based on the Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb said 1 in 20,000 chance. It's also anti-gravitational acceleration, which is not what a comet does. Matter of fact, nothing does. So, Mike, are they nervous about this thing, or are they watching it close? What is it? Do we know yet?
Oh yeah. Well, all of a sudden they're going to devote several craft to actually get data from it, right? All of a sudden. So of course they're going to get the numbers from it. That would be foolish not to get the data that they need from it. First, identification, right? Yeah. They need to enter in that data into an identification system that they can get a proper ident. Should something like that come by again, they're going to determine what it is. They're going to try and look through it naturally and dissect all that information. Now, it does have a very curious type of trajectory. It does.
It does. Yeah.
It really does. I was thinking about something, though. We sometimes... All we have seen so far is us, right? Yeah. So naturally, that's all people think about.
Is us.
But we know our Father's out there, and that he had Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed.
That's right.
He made several things happen, right? We know in the old days the destroyer had come. Yeah. We know that what Egypt saw. We know that he followed the children of Israel. So God can easily set something in motion. Now, we may not understand all the physics behind it, but he can set things in motion. In fact, if I'm a subscriber to Genesis, that the stars of the heavens are for signs and for seasons. And if I'm not mistaken, that original word in Genesis is signals.
It's signals.
Right? For signals and seasons. So then these smaller objects like comets and things like that, especially when they have these peculiar trajectories, I would say that was highly purposed. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a craft. It means that it was sent, right? Especially if the odds are almost slim to none that it would naturally do that. We have a habit of thinking everything is natural, right? I don't have that luxury anymore. So I know that some certain things are not natural. So we're looking at in the heavens, it's a timepiece. These, psychics and all these folks, they messed it up. But that's what Satan does. Satan will take something intimate to the Father, pervert it, and have people turn away from it. Yeah. Right. I think it's important that everybody understands God's creation. God put them up there, not Satan. So yes, we need to know what they are because they dictate God's calendar. They dictate his appointed times. And the more we have an understanding of that, the more accurate we're going to be about certain seasons, right?
You're right.
But again, I think that object probably sent by the Most High.
Amen.
Right?
Amen.
So of course it's going to have some peculiar orbit. My bigger question is, what does it mean? What does that imply?
That's a great point.
What does it mean?
As you said, Genesis 1:14 says, "For God said, for there shall be signs." He said, "I created the sun, the moon, stars for signs or signals, and seasons for days and years for your calendar." So he put a perfect rotation in place that you could set a calendar by it. Okay. You can set your clock by it. The solar eclipses, we can set it to the minute, to the second when it's going to happen. And all right. So it's not, it would not be unreasonable that God would send something from the interstellar world, from another galaxy, to come by at a certain time prophetically for such a time as this. And didn't Jesus say that in the last days there'd be great signs and fearful sights in the heavens?
That's right.
Unexplained.
And Pastor Paul, you know, I have to be reminded every time the whole world sees a mystery. Those mysteries always have meaning. When the whole world sees it, but they have no narrative behind it, they always end up correlating with something significant every single time. So what does this thing mean, right? Regardless of what it is, what does it mean for us? What does it mean for us? So look at the time that's coming around at, though. One of the most important times and delicate times in modern day history of both the military and nations, especially Israel. This thing is coming around at a time where things are quite significant, and any move could be a defining move for all of humanity. So it certainly means something.
It
to
does.
Its fullness, you know, that would be my question. We, you know, as far as alien species, at some point, we know that the old ones, and that's what I believe, I believe they're strung all throughout the solar system and beyond. I really do.
Yeah.
They're not bound to Earth, right? The ones that are bound to Earth can never escape from Earth, but there are more out there.
Yes.
We don't know how many angels God created.
Only
200 fell on Mount Hermon.
Right, according to the book of Enoch. And we know there was way more than 200 fallen angels. So,
Yep. And in Revelation, it says the stars will fall to the earth like figs when shaken up a mighty. So we're going to have some extra company down here for sure.
That's right.
And we know that Satan is cast down to the earth and his host of angels with him. And they lost the war in the heavens, so they have no more place in the heavens. So, but they could be everywhere, right? They can appear as anything. As far as meeting ET, I would not trust it, because the Lord gave us his word.
Amen.
And he spoke nothing about anybody coming to give us a different word.
No.
Right?
No.
And every time people have encounters with aliens, they call them, right? They always tell the person that Jesus was one of them and that they themselves are gods. The same thing Satan said a long time ago. So why would an ET come all that way just to tell us subscribe to New Age religion? That's ridiculous.
Right.
So we know what they are. We know what they are.
We know.
But at some point, they're going to manifest in this physical realm, right? They're not going to be hidden like they are now. I believe that many of them are. Well, if you ever see somebody drink something and they don't swallow, well, you know what you saw. How about that?
Okay.
You know exactly what you saw. Because everybody has to swallow. They use their, little things happen. But if you ever see somebody just stand there and dump stuff down their throat, nothing happens. That person is different.
Oh, so we
just don't stare at them. Don't stare at them too much.
We entertain angels unaware. Some of them are good, but we might even be entertaining some of them that are bad.
There are lots of bad ones. Okay. Lots of bad ones.
Okay.
Positioned strategically, but they do not swallow. None of them swallow.
That's a great point. I'll watch closer now, but I won't stare. I'll keep my shades on.
Just saying.
I'll wear my shades for a lot of reason, folks. Okay.
Side eye him.
Mike, also, look at these holes that are opening up. Look at this in Texas. I mean, 70
it's
foot.
terrible, isn't it?
And while that's going on all over the world, we got 5 houses falling into the ocean in North Carolina.
It's the rain and the heat causing that effect.
And isn't that also your salt watering in Truth?
Yeah. What happens when a city? What would happen? What would happen if, say, like in I'm not going to name a city, but what would happen if people in that city, 1/4 of that city dropped 5 feet all at one time?
No,
that would be the loudest bang anybody ever heard.
No,
it would scare people to pieces, right? People ought to get ready for that because it rains, right? That rain hits the ground, floods happen, everything else, and then it's absorbed in the ground. But the heat returns, drying up the surface. The water erodes near the bottom. So it's kind of like concrete. But it leaves these big holes right? And with these big holes, especially when you have saltwater intrusion, it takes away the soil. When it can no longer hold the weight above it, it caves in. Pastor, that's all over the earth. They already know this. They can x-ray the ground. They can see this from space. They can see all the holes just waiting to happen. And so what you see right there will happen all over the place.
So in other words, get ready for major amounts of population. And because everybody builds along the seashore. Everybody wants a ocean view property.
No, they're going to move away. They're going to move away.
So
they'll move away.
Is this why insurances are canceling all flood insurance and all wind insurance and all hurricane?
Yeah, they're not going to cover that. They're not even covering for meteorites, because somebody has tipped off these insurance companies that we're going to have more and more atmospheric incursions. Right, that will eventually start to leave fires all over the place.
Well, we just had Heidi. I don't know if Heidi talked about it tonight or not in the first hour while I was resting my jaw, but there was 9 near miss, and I'm talking 0.2 or less, scraping past the Earth in the last week. 9 of them. 2 of them, it said hit the Earth somewhere because it just said it hit. So we were trying to figure out where. We know one was very close to Connecticut, or probably hit in the Atlantic, and one very close to New Zealand. But it's happening everywhere. We're having impacts, and it's increasing, which I think you said that was going to happen.
Yep, it sure will. It will.
So,
that will quickly turn into uncontrollable fires. So there's some very unexpected things that will interrupt the plans of most people. But you can imagine, Pastor Paul, the first major catastrophe caused by something like that, these other nations are going to take full advantage of it. That's a caution in my spirit that people, they have the information. They have people like your son that will get the information out there. Now's the time not only to get the information, but they also have to start to prepare for the worst. If they can be prepared, we're not going to be ready until something actually happens. But we can prepare, be prepared for the worst case scenario, and continue to live your life.
Are you concerned that we're going to see an increase in volcanoes and volcanism?
Yes. Oh, yes. Big time.
And not just the volcanoes like are over my shoulder here, but the ones that we can't see down in the ocean.
Big time. Again, the solar winds, and you mentioned the increase in the solar winds, right?
Yes.
Volcanic eruptions will follow. They will follow. That with volcanic eruptions, with the increase of heat of magma, you're going to have a buildup of pressure. That causes tremors and earthquakes. It's going to cause a lot of volcanism. Watch out for Mexico and places in that vicinity. There's concentration of them there. And of course, when that goes, the coast plate will no longer hold. The San Andreas fault lines stability just won't be there anymore. Right? That plate goes. All bets are off.
Yeah. And they are really, really, we're in a danger zone for sure. America has several different serious plates we know about San Andreas fault line. We know Cascadia subduction zone certainly is one. And we're concerned about, some other areas, North Atlantic up there in New York now. We're starting to see earthquakes up there, Mike. You said that about 10 years ago, watch and see it was going to happen.
Yeah. So, those are the fault lines they didn't talk about.
No.
And there's a caldera below New York.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
isn't there something about America, though? America has the worst storms. Nobody sees storms like America.
That's true.
Nobody. Right? We have the worst earthquakes, we have the worst everything. We're held together by grace. We really are held together by grace. There's no way we should have held together this long. We're held together by grace. And the way the populace is I just, I pray that this influence of Christianity continues, sustains, because I know when it begins to fall off America any more than it already has, when this other side raises up, and they will,
we're
going to see just an almost overnight increase in these disasters.
I mean, this year, just this year, it's kind of amazing that we haven't been hit with a hurricane so far. But if you look at America overall, we get the worst hurricanes, we get the worst earthquakes, the worst tornadoes,
thunderstorms, tornadoes, yes,
rain bombs,
yes,
lightning strikes, hailstorms, straight line winds. I mean,
that's right.
We get the worst. And so you made a great statement when you said we're held together by grace.
Yes, we are.
But we better not turn our back on God. And
we already know what's going to happen if we do. The potential is there.
And I'm telling you, this country was swinging, we were giving God the cold shoulder. I'll say that.
We were. And things were getting worse.
Yeah, they were.
Things were getting worse. Look, it's so amazing because there's been a lot of prayer lately, right?
Yes.
Look what happened to these hurricanes. When was the last time? When these two hurricanes came up, I didn't talk about them much.
Nope.
Because in my mind, I'm saying, Lord, these people in Carolina, they can't take that again. These people in Nashville, they can't take that again. And so what are the chances a tropical storm will start to come in our direction and a hurricane come in our direction, but take away the other tropical storm out to sea? What are the chances? What is it? They can call that happenstance, coincidence. They can call it whatever they want. I would call that grace.
Amen.
Now, every time, if we can identify the grace, God will also show the opposite. So that means if you start having these outspoken people in these protests begin to speak against the Lord, watch what happens. Just watch. Now, but it's not going to happen to the unrighteous. I've also noticed something else. God will take his people and maneuver them without them even knowing. He will. He maneuvers his people into certain areas. When they are in certain areas, then the event will take place. It's almost as if God will move his people out of areas he does not want them in, that he's about to demonstrate on, right? He'll move them. And then that area that's void of God's people, they'll have a demonstration. Something awful will happen in that place. I've seen that so many different times. So many times it's not funny. Even the twins, there's a story just like that with the Twin Towers.
Okay.
Something very special happened with a lot of people during that time with at 9/11. Whether it was man-made, whether it was friend or foe did it, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord still, he always does this thing every single time. And those who are believers, who are found in those areas, they end up ministering to those who are on their last leg. They're like last chance disciples sent out there or something, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, the Lord has, he really has ensured our future based upon who we are, how he sent us here. So nobody's really going to be overwhelmed. We have a responsibility to work within that realm of what God gave us, but we're not going to be overwhelmed. None of us are. No believers are. It always looks like we are, but we never are. Have you noticed that? It looks like we're going to be overwhelmed, but never takes place. And everything we've gone through, somehow we've been able to take it. We've been able to, right? Shows a level of strength for each of us.
It's wonderful. It's God's grace. It really is.
It is.
It is amazing grace that it really is. Mike, thank you so much for being here again tonight. Once again, you're knocking the ball out of the park. I appreciate it greatly.
Fastball is always an honor. Always an honor.
No, the honor is mine. Believe me, and the audience. We all say that. Thank you.
Okay, Fastball. God bless you, brother.
God bless you. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.